Content and language. I will be hitting this particular subject for the rest of the afternoon. You can't do well on the search engines unless you have an interesting, well-written site. It's all the technical whiz-bang in the world not going to make up for poorly written content that doesn't deliver value to your users. End of discussion. And you need to keep this in mind. It used to be you could play around with keywords and kind of stuff the page and get to the top of the search results. Google stopped letting you do that back in 2003, and they keep on making it harder to have poor content rank well. The kind of base unit to measure this and to research what will work and what won't work are keywords, key phrases, and topics that are implied by them. And each key phrase that somebody searches on will have a potential volume associated with it. It'll give you some idea of what the user is looking for, their intent. If you're tracking it through analytics, you can start to understand the business impact. Is it going to be a phrase that really converts to whatever your goal is once they get to the site, or is it going to be something where they come to the site and they bounce away? And then the relevance. You may want to rank for a phrase, but it may not be completely relevant to your site. So you'll need to figure out, A, I need to create content that contains this phrase and kind of addresses this topic that is relevant to my users, or B, I'm going to try to rank for something else. So key phrases, keywords, they're kind of the base unit for this understanding of language, but it's the language itself. And again, it has to be well written. It has to have value for your customers. One thing you want to watch out about is we're marketers. We get in a room. We get excited about something. We come up with taglines and slogans, and we think we're all Don Draper from Mad Men, and we've come up with the best thing, and we're going to sell billions of whatever we're selling. And then you walk out of the room, and you go back, you answer email, and then you start to realize, okay, that's a great tagline, but nobody knows about it yet. How am I going to get the word out? If you're Intel, you'll spend millions and millions of dollars to get the Intel Inside logo everywhere and the three-tone chime, dun, dun, dun. But that takes money, it takes time. You need to really focus your language and your website. Yeah, include your marketing language, include your headlines and your slogans and things that really are catchy and snappy and marketing driven. But also write your pages in the language that your users are actually looking for. And if you can do that, then the taglines, the slogans will start to get traction. But you can't put the taglines before the base language. You need to write your website in the language your users are searching for it in. So how do we go about doing that? There are lots of tools out there, but before you start using any one of these tools, think about some basic questions. How do your current users, the ones you've already turned into customers, how did they get to the website in the first place? Was it word of mouth? Was it an advertising campaign? Was it a trade show? How did they get to you in the first place? And what kind of tripped their switch, made them want to come to your website? And then ask your current users, describe my product, my service in 30 seconds. And obviously, you can't do this across your whole realm of users. It's intrusive, but you can talk to 4 or 5 of them. You can talk to your salespeople. Your outside salespeople are going to have a really good idea of what resonates with the customers and what don't. And most of them won't be shy about sharing it with you because there's a fair amount of self-confidence involved in being a salesperson, so they want to tell everybody what they know. And a good salesperson, though, before they tell you what they know, they're going to listen to what you're looking for. And so they're one of the best sources of information on languages that resonates with your customer you're going to have. Now you can also look at other channels, trade pubs, magazines, analyst research. Look for how other people are talking about your product and services. If Forrester creates a brand new Magic Quadrant and slaps your company in the middle of it, all of a sudden all your marketing speak kind of goes away, and you need to write on how Forrester is describing your product you're offering. This holds true for most major influential publications, bloggers, thought leaders of any sort. If somebody starts to describe your product, your service, and they have a following, their language oftentimes will overwrite yours. Talk to your support people. Your support people are the ones who listen to people who are generally upset and unhappy and not really watching their words. They're just looking for a solution. And these support people can, A, help you understand your current products. They can also be a pretty good source of improvements to your existing products. Now, once you've had this kind of data-driven drill down outside, then work with your marketing team, work with your management, have a brainstorm session, start to come up with other key phrases, keywords. And as you find them, then you're going to take them and use some online tools. Now, you used to be able to look at your webmaster tool or your Google Analytics and get all this great information on which terms were being searched on. Google has stopped doing that, and they say it's because of privacy. Whether that's true or they're just trying to drive more people to AdWords is still open for discussion, but it used to be you would get 95% of your search engine traffic, you'd have a keyword associated with the click. Now you get 5 or 6% of your search engine traffic, and the rest is not provided. So that's gone by the wayside, but there are online tools out there you can use to hunt these down, and here are Beasley's top ones. There are a couple other ones out there. Jason, during this afternoon session, talked about Ubersuggest, which is a great kind of free approach. A lot of these require a subscription. Some will allow you to have trials, but generally it's worth the price of admission for the subscription. And they allow you to take your base set of keywords, the ones you've developed when talking internally and talking to your customers, put them into the tool, and then expand that out, come up with new ideas, and then start to associate some hard potential traffic with these keywords. So you know if you have 4 or 5 variations on a phrase, you'll know the one that's going to get the most potential searches in a month and the most potential clicks. You'll have an idea, depending on the tool, what month drives the most clicks around that phrase, if there's any seasonality to it. So using these online tools is incredibly helpful. Now, the first and the biggest one is Google's AdWords Keyword Planner. It used to be free, now you need to have a Google AdWords account, which you can set up for $5 and just put your credit card in and then leave it paused, and you'll have access to the tool forever. This is this is a paid search specific tool, but it does give you really good information on what's current in Google. And it gives you hard numbers you can use to compare apples to oranges, one phrase to the other, but don't be hooked into the idea that it's going to give you an exact prediction of how much traffic you're going to get from any one particular keyword. And the biggest reason behind this is, well, Google says roughly 70% of everyday searches are brand new terms that have never been searched on before. So people are going in and typing in different versions or brand new searches, into Google constantly. And any database cannot keep up with that on a timely basis. So the Google AdWords Keyword Planner will give you seasonality, it'll give you traffic volume, it'll give you competition numbers, but don't take them as absolute. Take them as yardsticks to measure one phrase versus another. Google's auto-suggest, this is the simplest one to use. Start typing a phrase into Google, and that little list of possible searches that comes up underneath, those are the most popular searches. It's going to tell you some things. Ubersuggest captures this and delivers it to you in a more usable term or usable form, but it's a very good way to start the process. WordTracker.com is a meta search engine that captures data from Google, Yahoo, Bing, some of the old school stuff like Alta Vista, and they pull it all together, and they'll give you competitive metrics, potential traffic, seasonality, estimated cost per click. Bing's tools, very similar to this, just on the Bing side of the equation. And then kind of one of my favorites here is Spyfu. And it's a funky name, but it's a wonderful tool. It was designed as a competitive research tool for PPC. It's grown into a competitive research tool for any sort of online marketing. I can type in a search phrase, I can type in a page, I can type in a domain, and it's going to give me information on keywords, driving traffic there, what people are bidding on if they're paying for them, who the organic competitors are, possible links, cost, seasonality, and it gives it to you fairly quickly. And it also will allow you to really understand what your competition is doing. So if I know that my competitor is ranking better for me on these 5 search terms, I can type in competitor.com and see where they're ranking, who's linking to them, and get an idea of what they're doing right that I can learn from. There's no such thing as stealing somebody else's thunder in search engine marketing. The internet's a big community, and so if you can figure out how somebody is a leader of the community, you can copy what they're doing, improve upon it, and you're the leader, and then they'll be copying you, and it's an endless cycle, which keeps people like me employed. But don't be afraid to learn from your competitors, because they're not afraid to learn from you. And Spyfu is probably one of the best tools out there, and this is for both paid search and organic, which we're talking about this afternoon. Okay. All right, now, I had mentioned a few minutes ago user intent. Understanding what people are looking for by what they're typing into the search engines. And user intent kind of falls into a couple different buckets. You have your information gatherers, you have your comparison shoppers, you have people who are doing analysis, people are ready to make the purchase decision, and all these different stages of the buying cycle have different language around them. So if I am trying to figure out why my hard drive on my computer is making a funky grinding noise, I go to Google and say, MacBook Pro funky grinding noise hard drive. And that's very much an information gathering search. If I'm trying to figure out, okay, I need a new hard drive, the one I have is going to go up in smoke soon, which is the best? What are the best hard drives for MacBook Pro? Are MacBook Pro 2011 hard drive replacements? I'm doing shopping, I'm doing comparison. And then I might say, okay, I know I want an SSD drive. Do I want a 4 or a 6 version? How big do I want it? How fast? Do I want Samsung? Do I want Kingston? Who do I want to make it? And you're doing analysis, you're doing some comparison shopping. And your language could be something Kingston versus Samsung flash drives. are megabits per second Kingdom versus Samsung. And again, the language of my searches are really giving the websites information about what I'm looking for. And I'm going to have different pages of my website deliver the different sets of information. Purchase, pretty straight ahead, buy Samsung hard drive. You can address any one of these or all of these in different sections of your website. If you try to hit more than one on a page, it starts to make it a little difficult from just a messaging point of view. It starts to make it pretty difficult from an SEO point of view because you're starting to kind of muddy the focus of the page. What set of language is the most important on the page? Which one do you want Google to pay attention to? So think about this as you're creating your web pages. Now, so far we've been talking about content. This is a class on SEO, but the content drives the SEO. And we're going to talk about ways to highlight that content, but having the content developed properly is going to get you the results you need. Different ways to categorize your keywords with user intent, and there are a billion different ways. Whatever makes the most sense for you to organize your thought process and create a website. And our previous speaker was talking about kind of the baseline of any content marketing program is doing keyword research. And preaching to the choir, he really hit that on the head. And this guy is a rock star with the content marketing, but he's saying the first thing we do is keyword research to understand our user, understand what they're looking for. So we can break out your keywords in the brand name, product category, function, industry, etc. Think about, as you're looking at your different keyword buckets, what's the searcher's goal when they use that key phrase? What's their expectation? And again, getting information or making the purchase. Doing comparison or just doing raw information gathering. And then what is your priority with that keyword? You probably want to rank highest on the purchase-driven keywords. Buy Samsung hard drive. So you want to be really aggressive on that. You can tie actual dollars to that, but you also know that most buying journeys start way earlier than the initial purchase. So think about what is your priority on that key phrase? What are your searchers' expectations? What are their next steps? And finally, does a key phrase demonstrate any loyalty? If I'm looking for a OEM replacement bumper for a Toyota Highlander, that says loyalty. I want original equipment replacement for my Toyota car because I love it. Again, searcher loyalty being communicated by the searches they're doing. And again, you can look at these searches via the different keyword research tools. Spyfu can give you an idea of kind of what's driving the things, but understand what that information is telling you about the expectations, the priority, and the loyalty. Also, where they exist within the buy cycle, and what are their next steps? What do they expect? And finally, where does it fit within your larger buy cycle? What is your final conversion goal for that user? Even at the beginning of the cycle, or they're actually converting, what is your final goal? Keep that in mind as you're developing your website, as you're writing your pages, as you're creating your content, as you're creating your shopping cart pages. Now, a few other things you can look at when you're looking at keyword sets. Your search terms can also fall into either a navigational, an informational, or a transactional query. And these are just a little bit different ways to look at that same kind of big bulk of keywords we just talked about bucketing. Navigational queries, pointing somebody to someplace they don't know about already. They're looking for an answer. They don't know a brand. They don't know a destination. They're looking for a map. Informational queries, they're beginning to understand what the final answer is going to be, but they're looking for more information. And transactional queries, just that. They're looking to complete a specific action. It doesn't have to be a sale. It could be a request for quote. It could be filled out a lead form to download the white paper, but it's very much a value exchange. Okay, moving on with kind of more keyword research. Your key phrases will have qualifying language around them. And if we look at the example here, which the base phrase is lens filter, there are all kinds of things we can pick up on just 3 different variations on that. So a neutral density graduated filter. Somebody's looking for that. I know they're probably a landscape photographer. Why do I know that? Because I've looked for these in the past, but that's what they're looking for. And I might be able to offer them something along the lines of the right lens, the right camera body to go with that neutral density graduated filter. But it's telling me very specifically what they're looking for. A polarizing filter, that could be somebody who shoots outdoors. It could be somebody who's shooting against water. It could be somebody who's shooting sports. And those are both kind of very specific as to what the problem or what the desired item is. Stuck filter removal. Yeah, it could be a stuck lens filter. It also could be a stuck filter for your carburetor. Who knows? But we have that filter base word, and if I have lens somewhere around stuck filter removal, I know somebody's trying to get the lens unscrewed from the filter. But different qualifying language telling me more and more about my searcher. And again, at the end of the day, I want to be able to write my content, create my website, so it's going to be something the searcher wants to go to, something that has value for him or her. Okay, now for the fun part. Each and every time somebody types something on a web page and puts it up, it's being interpreted. And humans are very good at picking up the ambiguity among things. Computers getting better, but they still have a way to go. With the phrase bank, you can see lots of different uses for that phrase, and you can tell what context that phrase is by the rest of the sentence. But a bank of computers versus a bank in the road. A bank of computers versus a bank where you keep your money. There are similarities and differences, but the surrounding text helps you to understand that. The surrounding text helps Google to interpret your website. So it's not just your key phrase, it's the entire page. Now, along the same idea, headlines. Humans like pithy headlines. They like things that pop out and are short. Computers, not so much. Computers like something a little more specific. So these are actual headlines taken from around the web. And you can see there are lots of different interpretations, like including children when you bake cookies, because they make it that much more sweet. And those annoying minors who refuse to work after they're dead. Farmer Bills dies in the house. We all know that's a piece of legislature, but Google might say a farmer named Bill died in the house. And my favorite here, prostitutes appeal to the Pope. 500 years ago, that probably had a completely different meaning than what it means now. This was about prostitutes appealing to the Pope for health care and birth control. But from that headline, you wouldn't know it. So remember, as you're writing your headlines, yeah, you want to make them pithy, but you also want to communicate what's underneath, what's on the page. Okay, to expand out that idea, as you're writing your website, as you're creating your content, as you're organizing your website, remember, Google's looking more and more beyond the keyword and looking much and looking at the larger page itself and the larger website. It used to be I could rank a couple individual pages on a website and forget about the rest of it. And that was easy and that was wonderful and there was much joy. Now I need to look at the entire website. And that's fine if it's a website of a couple hundred pages, but when we start to get into a couple thousand pages, Google is looking at the entire thing. I need to make sure that entire website is technically clean and as well written as I can control it, because Google's looking at things, the Internet of Things, and it's much more about the entire page and the solution versus individual strings of text. Now this quote here came originally from Matt Cutts, who was the chief spam cop at Google until recently, and he's taken a leave of absence. If you ever hear Matt speak about anything with search, pay attention. He's incredibly connected, and for probably 10 years he was Google's kind of official mouthpiece when communicating information for webmasters. But at the end of the day, Google wants content to be useful, interesting, evergreen, and just to make it a little more fun, they also want fresh content. It's hard to get all four. You may have something that's lively and active, but it has a very short shelf life, or you're going to have something useful and interesting that can last for a long time. But to get the kind of freshness and the evergreen, it takes some luck and some planning. Okay, so we've talked about kind of what we want to happen here. Let's talk about how we can analyze our website. We've come up with some good language. We have some ideas on topics that seem to be interesting to our potential customer. How are we going to map that to our website? What are the actual steps we're going to use? Well, the first thing you want to do is do a semantic analysis of your current website. That sounds very highfalutin, doesn't it? Your website is going to be analyzed by Google in something similar to this, so you're doing it is just getting a better understanding of what's happening. And what I mean by a semantic analysis is you want to make an outline of your site and kind of see how it's currently organized, what the sections are, what the headlines are, what each page is about, what each section of the site is about, and kind of overall what the entire site is about. And a very simple way to do this is to take on a directory by directory basis on your website to say, okay, here's the name of the directory, here are the headlines for the 12 pages below it, and then underneath each page put the subheads and the subheads and any bulleted list. And all of a sudden you're going to have a spreadsheet that's kind of encapsulating what you're telling Google are the top topics of your site. Now if you have a headline on a page and the rest of the page doesn't match that, that sends a confusing signal to Google. So this is going to kind of allow you to start to understand what you're telling Google with your current site, give you the opportunities to add content or revise content to match what you've seen as far as kind of good potential traffic phrases that match your customers. And it's also going to allow you to say, hey, this directory is a good topic, but man, the pages stink. Not, of course, that anybody in here would write bad pages. I'm referring to the other people. But this allows you to, in a systematic way, really look at your website hard. And if you're still having trouble kind of divorcing yourself from the process and taking your ego out because we build something, we're proud of it, we want it to do well, sometimes we don't always pay attention to what reality is telling us. Do the semantic analysis and then give it to somebody who doesn't really know your website and say, does this kind of match what the website's telling you? And it's a really good way to understand what's working and what's not on your website. Then take a look at your competitors' sites, specifically the areas you're going head-to-head with them on Google and you want to do better and rank better than they are, and do the same sort of analysis. See what they're doing well. See where they're screwing up. Okay, circling back around, your content. I can't emphasize this enough. Each piece of content on the site needs to be engaged with your user, and you need to have some sort of actionable goal from it. Whether it's giving them information or requesting them to fill out a lead form or make a sale, just understand this page has a primary goal. I want them to read the page because it's good information on my product. A secondary goal, here's a lead form they can fill out for more information. And maybe a tertiary goal, but you want to have a good understanding of what your website is about right now, and also say, okay, if I'm creating a new piece of content, if I'm revising this page, what is my primary goal? What is the first thing I want somebody to do after they've come to this page? Okay. Now, we've talked about keywords and phrases. We've talked about writing good copy. Let's actually talk about some good actionable tactics on where we put this language we've discovered. So, take your key phrases, get them into the body copy, get them into the actual guts of the page. Don't be kind of robotized about this. Say, I need to have this phrase appear 3 times. Say, I need to have this phrase and its derivations, its similar language appear within this page because it's really talking about what that page is. So get it in your body copy. Use natural language. Don't get kind of religious about having, oh, I can't have the plural version of this because the singular version has more traffic. Write good natural copy, but emphasize the language you know is going to get out there. Get your key phrases into your headlines and your subheads. If you're talking about something up on a page, it's better to tell people what the page is about early on, okay? So get the key language high up in the copy. Look for opportunities to repeat your main phrase and any kind of sub-phrases 4 or 5 times, but don't be religious. Don't say, well, I've only done it 3 times, so it's not good. If the rest of the copy on that page is supporting it and talking about the same subject, you don't have to be that religious about it. We're going through a process right now where we're working on the copy for an email provider's website. And we have our key phrases, and we have what we want each page to do, and then we give the key phrases and the goal of the page to the copywriter, and we say, go crazy, and then we'll polish it up after you've written it. But I want you to write good copy first, and then we can tweak it. But have somebody who can write good copy write the copy first. Because if the copy is not engaging, if the copy doesn't draw the customer in, it doesn't matter how many people get there. Get your key phrases in the page titles and the file titles, and I'm going to show you what those are in just a second. Any links to that page, alt tags behind images, we'll talk more about that later, and then also meta information within the media files, and again, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. All right, so some real life examples from the lovely Beasley Direct website and the smiling guy. So, across the top of every browser, we have the title of the page. And it appears across the top of every browser, whether it's IE or Chrome or Firefox or Safari, you're going to have the page title appear across the top. That page title is one of the biggest signals Google takes to rank a page. Because that is you telling Google, this page is about search engine optimization and pay-per-click services from Beasley Direct Marketing. So having your kind of key phrase in that page title is huge. And we're going to talk about some more details there in just a second. Then, of course, you have your file name, the actual name of the file as it appears on the server. And this is Search Marketing Index Page. So that's the name of this particular file. I have my headline. I have a subhead. I have link text. I have search engine campaign, search campaign, search marketing program, search optimized website. You can see it's very naturally written language, but I'm getting the idea of search optimization, search campaign, search marketing repeated throughout the course of the website. Good search marketing is cost effective. Good search optimization is even better. A naturally written phrase, I get search marketing, search optimization repeating a couple times. Then I have my link text here. I have my call to action. Again, I'm getting my key phrases within the page, but I'm not letting them create a poorly written page. I'm still writing a good, strong, actionable page that engages my user. Okay, let's talk for a few minutes about links. And this is we're going to circle back to this around 4 o'clock this afternoon, 4:30. Google loves links. Google uses links to really understand how your website exists within the larger universe of websites. And as you're looking at your links, you have a couple different parts here. You have where the link's targeted. You have the active text, also known as the anchor text. And the combination of those two is going to be really the core of the value for search of that link. So if you have a good keyword-rich phrase pointing to a relevant page, that's a good link. And that's your anchor text. And then also the surrounding text around your phrase, that's going to also have influence on the link. We'll talk about why this is important on an offsite factor, but this is something you want to look at for your onsite as well. If you're talking about another page within your website and you have a link to it, have that link tell Google exactly what's on that page. This page is about search engine optimization tactics. This is about the SEO tactics chart. Very concrete link about what's on that page. That's a signal to Google about here's the content on the page. Here's what you can expect when you get there. It's also a signal to your users. It makes for a good user experience. All right. A few minutes ago, I talked about the title. Now, the title doesn't appear on the page itself. It appears up in the very top of the bar. That's something to keep in mind. And it's referred also as a title tag. Google will take that title tag and 90% of the time, that's what they're going to return in the search results. So that title tag has to be well written, and it also can't be too long. Google's going to look at the first 55 characters of that title tag and return it in the search results. Anything after 55, Google is still paying attention to, but it doesn't actually appear on the search results page. So you need to say the first 55 characters of this title needs to describe what's on the page, needs to do it in a fairly easy, quick English, good English version, and then anything else after those 55 characters, it sends a little thing to Google. It's useful when they actually get to the page. We go back here. Pay-per-click is where the cutoff is. So it's search engine optimization and pay-per-click. Services on doesn't appear in the Google results, but Google understands that I want to include services here, and then once I get to the page, I'm also sending a signal to the user that they're on the Beasley Direct Marketing website. So 55 characters, that's what Google's going to display. About 90 characters, that's what Google's going to pay attention to. Anything beyond that, think about, is it going to add to the user experience once they get to the website? Now, if you think, I want to just focus on the first 55, that's fine, you're in good shape. It's just a little tougher to try to write 55 characters worth of copy and communicate what you're talking about. And just to make it more fun, that's 55 characters, including space, including punctuation. Okay, now, the title tag has a definite, measurable influence on your ranking. It is one of the key things you can change on your website. One of the first things we look at after we've done keyword research for a website is, do they have good titles? Or have they actually even bothered to title the pages? One of our current clients, who shall remain nameless, has about 500 pages on their website. And they've rocked and rolled on their own on doing optimization for about the top 120. They've taken the class, they've paid attention, and they've done a really good job without Beasley coming in on those first 120 pages. But they also knew they weren't getting the traffic they were expecting. So we walked in, we sat down, and we're like, well, Mr. G, you don't have any title tags on these pages. And he's like, well, it's right across the top of the page there in the headline. I'm like, yeah, but Google's not paying attention to the headline as much as they are to this blank, empty title tag. So title tags are hugely important, and they're one of the first things we look at. In addition to the title tag, you have an option to get something to appear in the Google results called the description, the meta description. And that's this part right here, the stuff that appears below the link. Now, with the meta description, it doesn't have any direct influence on your rank, okay? It will have an influence on your click-through, which over time will help you rank if you're doing it right. But it's not going, by having a really well-written meta description, it's not immediately going to give you a boost on your rank. The title tag will. The meta description is a benefit statement that encapsulates some of your features, but it's really, what's the benefit of clicking on this link for the user? So in this case, and we hope this one is well written because it's from an SEO tools company, Conductor Searchlight is the most widely used SEO platform empowering enterprise marketers to take control of their search performance. Right there, benefit statement. Empowering marketers to take control of their performance. Feature, enterprise. And then we also have kind of a nice little implied third-party social element here with the most widely used. But that's a very concise meta description that says, here is a benefit if you click on this link. Now, not all meta descriptions are that clean. That's just an excellent example. This one just picks up the table of contents, very keyword rich, and there's some implied benefits there, but not necessarily the strong kind of Conductor SEO benefit statement description there. And then down here, we have the lead into an article. We do the Ginza metrics, a little more feature rich and a little less benefit rich. But the more you can get into your meta description that's going to be a benefit to your user, the higher your click-through rate is. Over time, Google notices your click-through rate, and they notice the results that people click on and don't bounce back from. That's a metric they pay attention to. So if you're writing a good meta description that explains the payoff of your page, it's going to help your ranking over time. It's a slower process, but it also is going to help your conversion rate on the page. They get to the page, they know what they're expecting, they know the action and the potential value they can get out of the page before they click. Some rules of thumb with the meta description. It doesn't appear anywhere in the live copy on your page. It appears in the source code. Most content management systems, CMS systems, will allow you to get into it and play with it, but it never appears on the visible part of your page. You want to think about encapsulating what you want in 160 characters or less. Okay? If you go over that, Google oftentimes pick up the portion of your meta description that contains the keyword being searched upon. Okay, so if you're longer than 160 characters, not a bad thing, but get your keywords in there. And again, get that benefit statement. Give somebody a reason to click to your website.